2-point game, no timeouts, 10 seconds left. Jazz down 2, Hayward across the half court with 7, drives into traffic, bounces to the wing, Trey for a 3 right side, it's good! Trey Burks from the right corner buries the 3, 1.6 seconds left. That kid is simply totally awesome.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
Tip on opening night of the Utah Jazz NBA season is ahead of us. We'll talk about what to look at opening night. I may have been wrong yesterday after one day of practice observation. We'll look at our NBA 5 and get you ready for the opener. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Pow! One clarification early for all of you who happen to watch me on television for the brief little TV bit I do tonight. I will be wearing an orange tie. The Rockets' colors are red, and the orange is to represent right there. Okay, that's what that is. It's to represent the San Francisco Giants tonight. So just don't go opening night on me orange tie and say you're playing the Rockets. Okay, bigger issues going on with Game 7. Hope you got a chance to hear the Enes Kanter interview. He's just a wonderful young man, kid, a little of each, and that is up there. There will be no get-to-know interview posted today. I got to move some things around. There'll be no November 20th Carrick Felix get-to-know either. As we've obviously made some changes on that. Tonight, we debut officially, we've been doing it during the preseason, but a really exciting show, 6 o'clock, hour before every game. I'm hosting a show with Spence Checketts and Britton Johnson. It's an hour. It's kind of our local version of Inside the NBA. A lot of Jazz talk, a lot of national NBA talk. Spence is so well connected. Britton's terrific with his insight. So I'm just kind of the conductor in that group. Occasionally we'll try to provoke a little this or that, and we're rolling from there. So that is really a show I'm very excited about and looking forward to having you guys tune into. So maybe mark that down, get used to that. An hour before game time, I think, is a show you'll really, really enjoy. So hopefully you catch that. It's on 97.5, 1280 The Zone, and you should be able to catch it online as well. I know once the game starts, you're out of luck on the online stuff, but before the game starts, you should be able to still get that online. All right, what do we got coming up today? We have got the tickets are still available tonight, by the way. It's not sold out yet at utahjazz.com. It should be a really fun night. Rockets coming off their game last night, so hopefully we can take advantage of that, run them a little bit, see if we can get them a little tired, and fire it up for the Jazz and the Rockets. utahjazz.com. For your tickets, there's also the great ticket package. Come see Anthony Davis and LeBron James, all brought to you by Papa John's. NBA 5, we'll look at the 3 games last night, plus some interesting comments from Darren Williams, and then we will move on and break down the Jazz, and hopefully I've got some good questions today because that is what I'm hoping to take a bunch of. I don't have 40 minutes like I had yesterday, though, so we'll have to cut it a little short.
This is Rudy Gobert, and you are Locked on Jazz.
Thank you, Rudy. Let's do our NBA 5 today. Chandler Parsons, 2 for 10 in his debut for the Rockets, misses the open 3 to win it against the San Antonio Spurs in what was a terrific game. How about the Spurs? They just don't miss a beat. 20 for 36 last night on uncontested shots. 20 for 36, and they assisted on 62% of their field goals. And I actually thought that Dallas did a pretty good job of forcing the Spurs into kind of a one-on-one game for huge portions of that game. But instead, the exact opposite happened. They still were able to assist on 62% of their field goals, hit 20 of 36 uncontested shots, move the ball, do their things. Tim Duncan looks spry. We'll see. It's a long season. Tyson Chandler last night, -8. That's the key to the entire Dallas season, is whether Tyson Chandler can impact games the way he has in the past. And that is going to be everything to them. Devin Harris played very well. I'll have a thought for you on Devin Harris coming up. Lakers are awful. I played the closest to the pin game of when would the Lakers be down 20. The answer was 11 minutes left in the fourth, and then shortly thereafter, Julius Randle broke his leg, which was awful. The one bright spot in the Lakers' entire season for their fan base to dig into is Julius Randle and maybe a little bit of Ed Davis, and now Randle is out with a broken leg. What's interesting on this, by the way, is that Randle I don't know if it's the same. Like Randall, in a lot of people's mind, at the draft needed foot surgery. So I wonder whether or not you just shut it down at this point and have him go get that foot surgery that many people thought he needed as well. And the Lakers, frankly, are incentivized to be terrible. They lose if they get too good, they lose their draft pick to Phoenix. I know we're one day in talking about this, but their pick is top 5 protected. So to some level, the Lakers need to be probably 1, 2, or 3 worst records in the NBA, and I know that trying to do that intentionally with Kobe is awfully hard, but it does seem as though they're on that way. Tobias Harris is not going to get an extension in Orlando. He had a pretty good game last night. The key thing I'm going to watch is what teams do at the rim against New Orleans. Last night they were 22 of 54 at the rim against New Orleans. Aaron Gordon made his debut, 11 points in 28 minutes. He had 11 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal and a block. I didn't get to watch much of him. He did go 1 of 2 from 3. Didn't go to the free throw line where he's had a bugaboo. Alfred Payton goes 2 of 8 last night, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Bad night for Jimmer. Jimmer, after such a good preseason, plays 17 minutes, goes 0 of 6 and 0 of 5 on uncontested jumpers. That is not what he's supposed to do. And in Brooklyn, everybody's pretty much written me off, said Darren Williams. People say I'm never going to be like I once was. I'm on the downhill, and so what pressure do I have? I'm a lot more confident. I just didn't have a lot of confidence in my ankles the last 2 seasons. They wouldn't allow me to do the things I was capable of doing. I'm just playing, man. I can actually play. I can actually run, cut, jump, so it's different. Be very interesting to see the year Darren Williams has. Full docket of NBA games tonight out there, and we'll get our first taste of numerous players and numerous matchups and number 1 picks and Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parkers and Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. By the way, I think that train is out of control. We'll see. They play Charlotte tonight. I understand the talent. I can see it. I watch Summer League. I watch all. But the level that everybody thinks he's going to explode to me is way out of control. Andrew Wiggins will open in Memphis tonight a little bit later, and then we will play the 9 o'clock Eastern games. There'll be 3 later than us. The Lakers are in Phoenix. Golden State's in Sacramento, and Oklahoma City is the last one of all, playing in Portland. So you probably actually get to watch that one most of that one after the Jazz game. That, my friends, is your NBA 5.
Hi, Jazz Nation. This is Trey Burke. Thanks for being the best fans in the NBA.
All right, let's talk a little Jazz basketball. I'm about to sneeze. See if I can get through this. Guess not. By the way, great story by the guys at Believe the Hype, who are an Australian group who do a lot of fun stuff, and they have a podcast. So they interviewed Dante Exum yesterday and asked him when he found out that Joe Ingles was joining the team. For those who don't know the backstory on it, Joe Ingles has been the latest addition of the Jazz team. He's an Australian who was the first autograph on Dante ever got in his life, was his childhood best favorite player, and is now his roommate on the Australian national team. And they seem to have a really nice relationship. And Dante said he was getting his learner's permit. Okay, so when we're watching Dante, let's remember he's getting his learner's permit, and not only is he getting his learner's permit, he is still never bought a CD because he's downloaded all of his music, right? That's where we are with the youngster. He had a very good practice yesterday, though. I don't know if it was just the influence of having Joe Ingles in town, but he had a very, very good practice, I thought, yesterday. One of his better defensively, just made some plays, did some things. I thought that was and that's probably what we're going to see. You know what we're going to see on Dante is there's going to be 2 lines. I can't figure out how to graph it visually, and I don't want to draw lines on my face because you never know what happens. But there's going to be he's going to be on this uptick of exposure, talent, progression, and they're really excited about his smarts. I mean, he really seems to be a smart. Even when I was sitting next to Beelan earlier this year, the Michigan head coach, he made that comment. So there's going to be that. I think he's going to, and I think that's what I saw yesterday. Us coming off a day off and then a hard practice. And then the other thing is going to be body. So while he's driving himself up and getting better and better every day, walking that ladder, his body's going to be failing him throughout the year, going the other direction. And there's going to be nights where his kind of new knowledge of the game works, and then there's going to be nights where the tired and fatigued body wins out on him. I mean, he made the comment to me the other day. We were walking in together, and I said, "You got 84 left." We were in Oklahoma City because I'm not sure I've played 84 games in my life, right? And I mean, if you just look at this, we're not kidding around on this start, right? We play Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Boom, 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 boom. Like knock 'em, sock 'em, robot 'em. Getting punched around here early, I think is going to be an interesting one for him. I might have been dead wrong yesterday. I also might be dead wrong today, and if I take both sides of this story, then I'll be right at some point. But yesterday, the comment I made is I thought that Jordan Hamilton had a chance to be a rotation player for the Jazz, more so than Joe Ingles. Not so fast. And here's why. Watching practice and then talking to some people, Joe can really pass, really handle, and really do a lot of different things with the basketball. And actually Hamilton and Ingles, I think it's Ingles. I got to get the pronunciation on. Are very interesting in how different they are. So Hamilton's kind of the more traditional 6'7" wing athlete who's become a very good spot-up shooter, particularly good corner three shooter, not very good off the dribble. That's not totally fair. Not a great mid-range shooter, not an off-the-bounce shooter. Let me go with that. Can make a few plays. I mean, Joe is more of the traditional, gosh, I hate to stereotype this, European player. I know he's not from Europe, but he's playing in space and used to moving the ball in the Australian system. Remember, if you're early in the year, you'll remember Quinn said that he actually met with the Australian coaches on trying to pick up some of the things that they do. They really like their system, so that matches. I think Quinn really wanted a wing who could pass. Carrick couldn't pass at all. And so I think that Quinn really wants a wing that can move the ball and continue to play with a pass and play with a purpose and keep the pace of the ball moving offensively. And I think that that's where there's a huge value to what you're getting out of Joe Ingles. And so I think that that's where I think actually Joe, if he can can add some things and be a rotation player. The other one that very subtly happens here is if you add Joe into the rotation, one, if he plays with Dante on the floor, there's a comfort level there that's probably nice, and it's another ball handler off the bench if Dante's in trouble. Okay, Dante's gonna have some nights where handling's hard on him, nerve-wracking for a point guard. I got it. And so if you suddenly have Joe and Rodney on the floor with Trevor Booker, you've got two veterans on the floor with your second group, and two 27-year-old gritty, tough. I know Joe actually has a real reputation to kind of be a little chippy and a little tough, and I think that's a big deal. This team is really young, and actually the uptick of having a 27-year-old in Joe and a 27-year-old Trevor who've had them experience playing in some circumstance, that actually might be better than what I interpreted. So I may have missed on that one just from an initial observation. I just went with pro experience. The other one, if Joe plays tonight, it's a huge deal. Like, here's a guy that came out of Australia, played Australia, worked his way out of Australia into the European, got up to a better team European, then went to Mac, and now makes an NBA debut at 27 years old. I mean, it's a huge story about for people in Australia to have both he and Dante playing. I mean, it's cool. We actually are kind of going to become Australia's team, I think, in some ways. It's a neat, it's not Andrew Bogut coming to the U.S. It's not Dante being drafted. I mean, this is a true Australian player working his way up and through. It's not Patty Mills going to play at St. Mary's. It's a little different, and I think it's not Brock Modem playing at Washington State. It's a pretty cool little story that we probably don't get entirely. But he's a true rookie. Been to a few camps, decided to decided to try to make it this year. Cool stories from all these guys. His fiance had flown into L.A., so they were staying in L.A. just vacationing, wondering what had just happened. We got cut, then he got the call. He'd heard some murmurs. The Jazz had talked about bringing him to camp. Jordan Hamilton, who's from L.A., got cut in Toronto, flew to L.A. By the time he landed in L.A., he found out he had to go to Utah. These guys were all over the map. Interesting moment in practice yesterday. I try not to share too many specifics in practice, as you know, but I thought this was just an interesting moment. Enes had the ball left block on Rudy. Fabulous pump fake. Just really got him. Rudy goes hook, line, and sinker on it. Enes comes back the other side and rushes the layup because he's still worried about the length of Rudy Gobert, even after pump faking and missing him. And I'm not sure Rudy was quite there, but it's a sign to me of just one, Rudy's incredible length. Two, the impact in the Rudy's improved quickness that's going on. And the other one, Rudy working very hard on trying to get an adequate left hand around the basket with Alec Jensen. So there's just an awful lot of work going on by Rudy right now trying to make that better. I made a comment the other day. I got some emails on it and comments on whether or not the first thing the Jazz have to figure out with Enes Kanter, I said, is whether you can win with him on the floor. Not all of his talent levels, just whether you can win with him on the floor. And people are like, what do you mean by that? Well, here's what I mean by that. One is and this is a little unfair, so this is not the greatest use of numbers. But last year when Enes played 30 or more minutes, we were 3-28. When he played 25 or more minutes, we were 7-40. The defensive rating was 6 points worse with him on the floor, and we were minus 13.8 per 100 possessions with him on the floor. Okay, that's not good. The real plus minus, which was created by some guys outside of ESPN, have been promoted by ESPN and Kevin Pelton, is supposed to evaluate that kind of number and look at it and say whether or not that's fair and whether or not they are finding a way to isolate the individual player inside of all this. Well, in that case, Enes came out as the 409th player in the NBA in real plus minus. Okay, that's the issue for Enes, whether we can win basketball games with him on the floor. It's really not whether you can shoot a three, though that's going to be part of the equation. It's not whether he scores his points and rebounds. He proved he could do that, but can he do it inside of a team concept? The same thing with Alec. The comment I've made on Alec is I'm confused about where does it gel between what the coaches want and how disruptive is it when Alec busts off the plays and doesn't play in the system and the method that Quinn wants. And it is disruptive. I'm not wrong on that. There's also a little bit of, you got to coach a little bit of what the team needs. There aren't a lot of guys who can do what Alec does. So the team needs Alec to be able to do those things. There's going to be a balance between Alec as well on what the team needs and what he's doing. And when I say disruptive, there's systems of what they're trying to do. A push-ahead pass. Alec gets the rebound and doesn't always hit the wing on the outside. Alec, they want the ball out on the outside, on the wings wide to create the space. Alec has a tendency to come more middle. Alec has a tendency to catch and bounce a few times before he'll go make his move, rather than having decided beforehand. Quinn would really like those decisions. Those are all developmental, evolutionary things in his game that he's going to have to learn. Nate Duncan at Basketball Insiders wrote a piece today about the extension process for both those. We're getting down the wire on this. As I've said, I think the Enes thing is on everybody's side. It just makes sense to wait and see. I'll be stunned, flabbergasted if a deal gets done with Enes. Also, the other angle on Enes is the third pick of a draft. He's making a lot of money next year. So, he's got to. There's not that you don't take that number off if you do an extension, but he's still just making a lot of money. And the second issue is on Alec. I still think there's a shot. The number. Unless Andy Miller's side is crazy and thinks that Alec has... Here's the issue on Alec. If Alec's side believes that Alec is going to have a breakout year, become a Lance Stevenson, Gordon Hayward, max player, type player, and get huge money next year, then the conversation is over. If the Andy Miller side is looking at Alec kind of saying, okay, well, there's a chance that he's going to become a real 18-point game scorer in the league, there's also a chance that he might be a sixth man, and he's probably somewhere in between DeMar DeRozan and Evan Turner or Gerald Henderson, somewhere in that mix of players. He's a little better than Gerald Henderson, but he's somewhere in that mix, right? And they realistically look at it that way. At least that's how I see it. And they're looking where he is now, not shooting the moon for his future. Then the numbers get into a range where you probably should be able to get a deal. Could get a deal done, not should. Could get a deal done. You're now somewhere between 6 and 9, 6 and 10 million a year, and you're probably trying to figure that number out collectively, and can probably get creative enough to get a deal done that's worth it for everybody. to progress on. So I think there's a chance there. All right, let me go take some questions and see if they're there. I really wanted to do 20 minutes today, and we're there. So let me fly through if there are any questions today. There are. Douglas Stansbury. Burks over 20 points against the lazy defense of Harden. Harden will play the 2, Burks. Maybe. This should be a hard matchup for Harden. He's played the night before. He doesn't like playing in altitude. He's copped out of a bunch of games here, and we should make him move a lot. Hayward versus Ariza is an interesting matchup tonight. Ariza loves the 3 and has lockdown D. Ariza took it to GH last year. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I'll have to look at that. First look at to see if Hayward can take the next step. Individual matchup. Who wins? Ariza is the 4th best effective field goal percentage catch and shoot guy in the NBA. 4th best. So the Jazz better get out on him defensively. I think that's the first part of that. I'm most curious on Hayward. The 3 steals a game in the preseason. He got 2 yesterday in practice that were great. Is he suddenly in defensive positions that are different now that is going to allow him to become a defensive smart player and make steals that he wasn't able to do in the past? I think that'll be most interesting in things. We are not going to play a lot of isolation one-on-one basketball, so I think it's very difficult for me to answer some of these questions. But I love the pregame questions. I love that idea. This is great. I was actually trying to think if I start a feature where I have some we start the hashtag HOU at UTA early with some sort of closest to the pin or over-under every night, which you get nothing for other than the fun of participating. How about Alec 434, Enes 442? And last year player option. I'm not sure I'm giving Enes $10 million a year if I'm the Jazz. I just don't know yet. This is hard for me, guys, because if you listen to the Get to Know interview the other day, you know I just think the world of Enes. I just like him so much, Skip. But I don't know if I don't know yet. If I'm the Jazz, I can't pull a trigger knowing the numbers I just gave you. There are players in this league you just can't win with, no matter what. Just their games doesn't equate to winning. I'm sorry. Alec, I think that's a fair number. That's why I think, or 3 or 4 on either side of that, right? 432 gets it done, I would say. Does 437, 38 get maybe, right? I think that's a fair number. You're in the ballpark. So that's why I think there's still a chance on Alec. And I just think it's a question. The only issue on Alec, in my mind, is going to be a question of whether Alec's management and Alec's family, because I think on Gordon, the family had a huge part of it. They felt secure enough what they were doing that they were willing to shoot the moon. And they shot it, and they got it. Credit to them. Whether or not Andy Miller and Alec Burks' family and everybody involved with Alec Burks wants to wait and see if he can shoot the moon next year. If that's what they're looking for, then we're done. Then the conversation's over. But if they're looking for that kind of thing, then I think you can get something done. That's the whole issue on this. Forrest, I didn't get your questions yesterday, so let me make sure I get to them today. Do you think the Magic are a similar team in the sense that they are all pretty young? I know they have some older pieces overall. I think their young pieces are very similar in this sense. They're all very good, and none of them are stars yet. And you're wondering whether Peyton, Gordon, Oladipo, Vukovic, Tobias Harris, who they may not get an extension done with, whether any of those 5 guys, am I forgetting anyone on that team, can become a star, the same way you're wondering whether Dante, Trey, Alec, Gordon, Enes, or Derek, or Rudy can become a star, or, an integral piece. And I think that's what's Oladipo. Did I say Oladipo? I may have left out Oladipo. And I think that's what shows. How has Joe Ingles looked in practice? I'm not expecting him to get minutes yet, but a friend who's played in Italy and Spain for 7 or 8 years says he's a better passer and scorer, a good point forward in the second unit, could take pressure off Dante. Well, Andrew, I have no idea when you submitted that question or if but that's exactly what I just said earlier in the podcast. And unlike radio, I'm pretty certain you heard earlier in the podcast if you got to this point. But yes, I think that's where I missed yesterday. I thought of Hamilton as a space shooter. I mean, Jordan Hamilton's, this is crazy, by the way, 36% shooting is the best of any player coming back from last year on our team. How about that? Jordan Hamilton's our best three-point shooter. But we need ball movers, and we particularly need ball movers in that second unit with exactly what you're saying, pressure off Dante. So, yes, I actually think Joe could play tonight, which would be really cool. I think people in Australia could probably make us understand that a little bit better. Will we beat the Rockets tonight? Yes, Jazz win. Go to 1-0 tonight with a win on the back-to-back. Story of the season is going to be often. Early in the year, one of the big stories of the season is going to be the Jazz ability to win games when the other team doesn't have a chance to prepare for them. The Rockets won't prepare. The Rockets, I'm unimpressed with the long leadership of Howard and Harden and their professionalism toward games like this. I think the Jazz win this game tonight against the Houston Rockets. The Rockets will try to have talent. The Jazz will hopefully play, and the Jazz will win tonight's game. Big test early on both the defense and the transition defense for the Utah Jazz. The whole discussion all this whole year has been the fact that whether or not the Jazz, what the Jazz are going to be able to do defensively and the progress the Jazz have made. Well, look at this. The Jazz opened with Houston, 4th best offense in the NBA. Dallas, 3rd best offense in the NBA. Phoenix, 8th best. Clippers, 1st best. Miami was the 2nd best with LeBron. This offense is going to be better. And then Dallas again. The opening games, all against top 8 offensive teams. We'll see what they can cut off transition. They can play defensively. That is tip-off after the game tonight. Remember, Jazz Game Rewind as well as Postcast with Ron Boone and Emptying the Noggin. All coming your direction. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning from Dallas. It's on, baby. The NBA season's upon us. Have a great one. Be safe.